Hello and welcome to this week's Friday Ramble. I hope that you've had another good week. I can't believe yet another week has flown past, but we've had some nice weather this week, which has been great. And I don't know about you, but there seems to be a feeling of optimism in the air now. I mean, things are starting to get back to a little bit of normality. I have to confess I've spent quite a lot of time watching Euro 2020. 2021 and some Wimbledon as well. I watched Andy Murray the other night, and not only I enjoy watching the football and the tennis, but of course it's great to see crowds coming back and people sitting there without masks and just really enjoying themselves. And it does give a feeling of normality, although as I said last week, it's still rather frustrating that you see people singing songs in the crowd. But we're not allowed to sing in church at the moment. But I'm seeing more and more notices of concerts being planned for later in the year, people feeling that soon we will have the shackles lifted and we will be able to sing again. And I'm feeling quite confident that at church here that it won't be too long before we can get back to normal. And then we just have to decide whether we're all happy to get together again in the choir stalls and just get on with it. I think life always has a few risks, doesn't it? We always have to take risks a little bit. And so I hope it won't be too long before we really can just get back on the horse and get riding, I suppose. So, yeah, that's my optimistic thought for this week. So I have one or two silly facts for you again. For some bizarre reason, I thought it might be quite fun to look up about the deaths of famous composers. I remember learning at college, actually, the pianist Alcan, I think it was, who reputedly went to reach for a book on a high shelf and the bookcase fell on him and killed him, although later studies have discovered that in fact probably he died because he pulled a very heavy umbrella rack on top of him. But either way, it's pretty amazing, isn't it? So who else did I find out about? Well, Lully, Jean-Baptiste Lully, the French composer. You probably know this story. In the old days, for conductors from about the 16th to the 18th centuries, conductors used to use a long pole, a sort of 6-foot pole, which they used to tap on the floor in time. And it was quite useful to the musicians because they could hear it. It must have been a bit odd listening, hearing this pulse going on the whole time. Anyway, Lully was doing that one day and he unfortunately bashed his foot rather too hard and he caught gangrene. His foot became gangrenous and he died. Oh well. So there's a moral to this tale here. It's dangerous being a conductor. And then I love this one, Jeremiah Clarke, organist, composer, who wrote the Trumpet Voluntary, you know. Well, so the story goes, he fell for a lady who was rather above him in the social status, and I don't know whether she didn't return his letters or just wasn't interested in him. Anyway, you know, it was love unrequited. And so in 1707, he decided to end it all and kill himself. Dramatic this. And he couldn't decide how to do it, so he tossed a coin. And he decided that if it landed on heads, he'd hang himself, and if it landed on tails, he'd drown himself. So he flipped this coin up, and it landed on the ground in the mud, and it landed on its side. So he shot himself. And finally, I mustn't laugh, finally César Franck, that wonderful composer, organist, composer, he was probably the first person to be involved in a composer to be involved in a road traffic accident. He was struck by a horse-drawn carriage while crossing the road back in 1890, and he was quite badly hurt. But he had a concert that evening, and he still insisted on going to conduct the concert. But after the concert, he went to his bed, and gradually, in the next few days, few weeks, his health declined, and he died. So he really died from being struck by the horse-drawn carriage. So there are a few macabre deaths of famous composers. www.swanageteam.com is the usual website address for the parish of Swanage, and all the details, all the news, everything is there. Online services, live services. We're very much looking forward to the baptism of Helen and John's grandson on Sunday morning at St Mary's. But there are all sorts of other things going on, so do keep an eye on the website. So for my recommendation for this week, quite a few of you got in touch with me or emailed me and said how much you'd enjoyed Stanford in G last week. It really is wonderful. And it's funny, I was thinking we used to categorise evening canticles into sort of, the one in a cathedral, the ones you'd sing on a Sunday and the ones you'd sing on a Saturday, which is always a day when there were lots of people there. And then you get your sort of Monday, Tuesday, beginning of the week ones, and your sort of midweek Thursday ones, and they're all sort of graded. And I was thinking of lesser known canticle settings that I used to really enjoy. And I remembered a setting that doesn't get done too often, and in fact I struggled a little bit to try and find a recording of it for you, but it's by Harold Darke of In the Bleak Midwinter fame. I don't know whether you know much about Harold Darke, but he was born in Islington, I think, at the beginning of the last century, and he studied music and he became an organist. Started off in a church in Hampstead, but he's most famous for the fact that he became organist of St Michael's Church in Cornhill, which is near the Bank of England and in the city. And he became organist there in 1916, and he finished there in 1966. Have a think about that, 1916 to 1966. And it was only broken up for a short time during World War II, when he was asked by Boris Ord whether he would stand in at King's for a while, whilst Boris Ord went to fight in the war, which Harold Darke did. And Darke set up at St Michael's Cornhill a series of organ recitals. I can't remember how many he did, but he did them weekly, and I mean it went into hundreds. And his successor did the same. And the guy who's there now, a guy called Jonathan Renner, who's been organist at St Michael's Cornhill since 1979, he is still doing weekly organ recitals. So amazing, really, the amount of organ recitals in that place. Anyway, Harold Darke wrote quite a lot of lovely music, miniatures really. As I say, In the Bleak Midwinter is probably his most famous piece. But he wrote a setting of the communion service in F major, Darke in F. Lots of you will know Darke in F. It's sort of one of those wonderful settings, which is not too difficult, but really fantastic. Great Gloria, beautiful Sanctus. So, I mean, if you don't know it, have a look at that on YouTube, Darke in F communion service. But what I'm really going to make you listen to today is the Magnificat from the Darke in F setting, not the communion setting, but the evening canticles, the Magnificat. And I just remember this being a really lovely piece. It starts off just 4-part choir, but for a while during it he splits into 8 parts. But the bit I remember the most is near the end of the Magnificat. There's a lovely baritone solo, and then it's answered by other voices in the choir. And we used to do this at Salisbury, and I just always remember it was another of those moments that the hair on the back of my neck used to stand up just when the baritone used to sing and then the choir came in afterwards. He remembering his mercy. I think that's right, that's the point. And then in the Gloria, there's a wonderful sort of little fugal section, as it was in the beginning, which is great. So it hasn't achieved great recognition, but I just think it's a lovely, lovely piece. And so, anyway, I'm just suggesting it to you. I could only find a recording by Portsmouth Cathedral Choir. I say only, but I would have thought there would be more, but that's the only one I could really find from a little while ago. But it gives the idea and the feel of it. But just have a listen to it and see what you think, because I think it's a very sweet setting which perhaps should be better known. It's not necessarily one of my real favourites, but it's a little sort of gem as I say, it's a sort of Tuesday evensong piece. It worked very well indeed. So I hope you enjoy that. So let's just do a little bit of singing today. So I shall pop over there. I'll be with you in a second. So here we are, as ever, ready to sing. Good posture. Let's take a couple of deep breaths. Keep those shoulders down. Little siren. Let's do the mm one again. Lips slightly apart, tongue behind the top teeth. Good. Now let's do our ya 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 ya. Ya 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 ya. Relax that jaw. Ya 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 ya. Haven't done this for a little while. Sea blue car. Sea blue car, 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 sea And let's just finish with a few triads, just to ah. Here we go. I struggled a bit there. That was a top A there, I think. So if you did that, got that, you did well. Good. So I hope that was helpful to you. I look forward as ever to seeing some of you at the weekend, but I hope it won't be too long, as I always say, before the rest of us can all get together. As I say, I'm really feeling quite optimistic about it, so I hope it won't be too long. But until then, stay safe, have fun.